Well, Columbia was coming upon its first birthday, and the first birthday was over on the other side of Wild Lake in the open space there, and everybody was very excited by this. You know, everybody owned Columbia in those days, and just before that, on the Thursday night before that, the man on the radio said that George Wallace was going to speak in Columbia. This was in the campaign of '68. And I was having dinner in Washington, and I got a call that George Wallace is going to speak in Columbia. And gosh, the whole community was just up in arms. And at the birthday party, there was no other conversation than George Wallace is coming to Columbia next week. What are you going to do about it? And there was a big, wonderful, the first of the dances on the plaza, on the birthday ball. At every table, this was the conversation, and there were rump groups ready to raise hell and all kind of things. But finally, a group got together and decided to have a meeting on Monday night at Slayton House to talk about what to do about this. He had rented the hall from the National Symphony, which then owned the Meriwether Post Pavilion. Or we owned it, but they leased it from us. They had full control over it. And when they called him, he said he had no choice. He couldn't refuse to lease it. But he was there that night. The manager of the symphony was there, and he spoke. And I spoke. I still have my notes from what I said that night. And then, and I was chairman of the meeting, and then we threw it open for discussion. Slayton House was absolutely packed. People were standing all back in the wall, out in the lobby. And the wonder of this night was that the feeling was so strong that everybody who spoke was with passion, but there was no hostility. Nobody was attacking anybody else. These widely divergent opinions. And there was a psychiatrist, big, tall man, a black psychiatrist, 6 feet 4 inches tall. What the dickens was his name? He lived on Green Mountain Circle. And he went to the rostrum, and he talked about the erosive power of fear and how that the worst thing that was happening tonight was the fear it had instilled in people, and there was nothing to be afraid of. And he gave this calming talk about fear. There was a little woman dentist, a Korean woman dentist there, and she got up with that light voice that Oriental people often speak with, and she said that how much she agreed with the psychiatrist, and she said, I'm reminded of an old Chinese proverb that you don't need to go to the ocean to drown. You can drown in a 2-inch pool in your own backyard. And finally, it was proposed that we run an ad in the Baltimore Sun and the Washington Post inviting George Wallace to Columbia. And the ad was prepared and written, and in order that he could see what people lived like who were tolerant and understanding and open and free of the bigotry that marks your life, George Wallace. So then came Thursday night, and there was another meeting at Wild Lake where everybody was urged to come. It was a meeting in opposition to George Wallace. But when Thursday night came, it was absolute pouring down rain. It poured so hard that not very many people went to the Meriwether Post Pavilion, and not many people came to the Wild Lake. So it all wound up in a fizzle. But it was a wonderful, prophetic, really, expression of what Columbia was headed for in terms of openness and tolerance and relationship between black and white people.